See, and that's where we're going to get our power, right there, from that giant nuclear reactor in the sky we call the sun. It's one big everlasting star. Yeah, old Stan used to joke with us about burning holes through your wife's pots and pans when you go cook with HHO gas.
Here we were sustaining flames from 10 to 25,000 degrees, but if I would allow this technology to go into the kitchen in your home, your wife will come back and say, "Hubby, you didn't do too well. Look at my pots and pans, I got holes in them."
That's not far from the truth. Watch what happens when you get too close to that flame. You don't want to do that to your pots and pans. So you're going to have equipment like this. I'm using all stainless steel right here. Okay, and all those wet cells that you see out there, they generate heat, especially if they don't have a pulse width modulator hooked up to them. And we can use this heat to our advantage. I'm going to show you how to make that heat work for you. In this type of reactor, see, I have a valve in the back here, and I can remove the electrolyte very quickly and replace it with the electrolyte from another reactor. It doesn't take me very long. So when this thing gets really hot, let's say I run it up there, I have a time frame. Once I get from about 300 watts up to say 700 or 800, I want to shut this thing down. I don't want to run it to a full 1,000 watts. I don't want it to get that hot. So I can cook all this food you see here, all this simple stuff, just with one reactor core. I only got one fuel cell hooked up here. Okay? I'm going to show you how I do that, how I cook all this food that you see here very easily. Here's my equipment. This is all the stuff that you're going to need. I know. Yeah, don't forget about Cleopatra. She was a very powerful female at the time that had huge influence as a pharaoh. See the symbol? You can see the resemblance. You know, Stan said something once. He talked about the treasures in the snow and the hail. And I remember seeing snowflakes for the very first time in my life when I went up north one time to see them. And I couldn't believe how every single snowflake was completely different than the next. No two snowflakes were the same. I thought that was completely amazing. I mean, he speaks about that, and that is one of the most amazing things on this planet with water. No two snowflakes are the same.
38 verse 22 and 23. And this is where the Lord is talking to Job, and he asks Job this question. He says, "Have you considered the treasures of snow, or have you considered the treasures of hell, which I have reserved against the time of trouble, against battle and war?" Now the interpretation of the scriptures are as follows. Is not snow the most beautiful part about water? That no one snowflake looks exactly the same as that of another? The treasures of snow is the characteristic and knowledge of water.
So getting simple stuff going like Spam, tortillas, chicken noodle soup, sliced carrots, these are the things poor people are going to have. Oatmeal, rice. A lot of people eat rice in other countries, they're going to be, that will be their main staple most likely. Don't forget MREs, stuff like that, meals that are packaged like this that are already cooked and just need to be heated up. You don't have to cook them on a flame. It takes a lot of gas to make straight direct flames like this. You could use the catalyst. You could use the reactor itself. I mean, once these reactors heat up, energy just changes forms. It's not hard for me to stick that in there and warm that up, Don't forget, you can cook directly off this thing too. You don't just have to go in here boiling water and making pasta and doing all these other things that you can do. Once you're able to boil water, that increases the menu. You can make rice, boil pasta, cook oatmeal, rice and beans. Everything we got over here. You could start heating up your stews, your soups. You start simple with this stuff, guys, and start small too. It's different. It's not like what you're used to in the kitchen, This thing always reminds me of the Legend of Zelda every time I see it. This triangle thing here. Anyways, I just wanted to show you this. And you gotta have these thermometers so you can keep track of reactor temperatures. You can keep track of your flame, food temperatures. I got another thermometer here somewhere. And don't forget, you can cook directly off the top. Let me set this down. If you wanted to, you guys see me do this before. You cook directly off the top. The filet mignon works really good like this too. Steak and A1, you cook right off that flame. So Stanley Meyers was very efficient with his fuel cells. You know, he was still using electricity. You know, it's not free. It takes power to do all this. You know, a lot of people got to understand that. Energy just changes forms, you know, from one to the next. It's that simple. It's never created or destroyed. So I'm very efficient. Life on 800 watts would be very easy for me. I'm very efficient, and I'm capable of making light and heat and electricity and fresh water. You know, I can cook with all this stuff you see here. There's nothing I couldn't cook on this reactor. You know, I've seen my catalyst. That's how you get your bread oven going. I'm going to show you guys how to do that. That's a whole nother project. I usually keep it simple. You know, Stan always said, keep it simple, stupid. You want to be able to slap these things together. You know, let's just say it all got thrown away tomorrow. You could rebuild it instantly. I mean, it costs very little to nothing to build reactors like this. Wet cells are phenomenally easy to build and very simple. So let's take a look over here at what I'm running. So we're almost pulling about 5 amps. So I got 4.5 amps, 550 watts. You know, that's what a coffee machine pulls. And I'm capable of getting by with just that, me personally. So it's different for everybody. Let me show you how this oil runs. Let me dump some oil in here. Let me show you how oil is much easier to heat than water. I want you to see that effect. So it's a lot easier to heat the oil than it is the water. You know, Stan wanted us to enjoy one of the greatest freedoms of all. That was energy independence. That's what he was trying to give us. You know, without pollution and limitless amounts of pure clean energy from water. That's what Stan was all about.
You know that if our forefathers and our grandfathers would awaken out of their graves and see what's taking place in our country today, do you know what happened? They would grab their arms and go to Washington, D.C. to clean out our government. Absolutely.
When it comes to deep frying, you want to be careful. That fryer grease is really hot. Stick the thermometer in there. You can see. You take some of these french fries right here, so you can deep fry, you know, and this increases the menu. Just be careful with it. You don't do all this on the floor. Yeah, I know cooking like this is different. Make sure you have this little gadget right here. This is a 3-way. That way you can go ahead and run your lights, you know, run your stove and run other things while you're all working together on one. You don't have to work on one thing. You could do multiple tasks. Coffee's a snap, spam. It's easy to make this stuff. My rice is almost done. I'm going to show you what this looks like in here. Simple equipment, simple tools. That's the 5,100 degree flame from the HHO gas that the water puts out. Give you a close-up of that. So I know this is going to be hot. I have to set the camera down for a second. Okay. There's the rice. A lot of people eat rice. That's going to be one of the main things to be able to cook. Make sure you have lids. Works a lot better with lids. It traps in the heat. And don't forget, you gotta let the water out too. Over time, that flame makes water. And what's cool is that the water that's in the reactor that I took out of the lake, you're pulling it apart atomically at the atomic level. So it's the greatest water filtration device in the world. Think about that. The reactor actually pulls the water apart, turns it into a gas, and then turns it back into water again. Okay? Comes out right here. Over time, you have to let some of it out. That's the byproduct of the reactor and electrolysis, is fresh, clean drinking water. You know, this all may seem different and strange and alien to some of you, but this is how it works, you know. You have to have an electrolysis tank to make the gas. Everything has to be just so. You know, these guys aren't using conventional fuels. You know, like you and me. Think about that. They're not using conventional gas, propane, anything like that to travel in space. And they're not cooking out on the grill in space with these items either. You know. Oxyhydrogen gas is very powerful. And it only makes water when you burn it. So you can burn this in a closed space on the ship. So I hope that helps you guys understand some of the stuff here. I was just covering the basics so you guys would see some of it and how you could cook with it. And the more reactors you add, the longer the run times you have, and the more work you can do.
Roses came.